From the depths of Tor Johnson's neck folds, it's Plan 9 from outer space on Amigos, everything Amiga. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Amigos. I'm John.
And I'm Aaron.
Today, Aaron, we're talking about Plan 9 from outer space. Aaron, is Ed Wood a cinematic genius?
Well, it depends on your definition of genius.
Okay, is he a legend? Because I was talking to Rob Flack O'Hara the other day. You might have heard of him.
I've heard of that guy, yeah.
And he this was the week that 4 celebrities died, okay?
Yeah.
And he made a Facebook post, and he's like, we lost 4 legends. And one of the people on the poster was Shannon Doherty.
Yeah.
Shannon Doherty. And and I said, really? I mean, I was not trying to be sarcastic or funny. I was like, do you really think that she's a legend? And you know, he was explaining to me that if I was 10 years older, then she would have been legendary to me. So in your own mind, is Ed Wood a legend?
Well, Shannon Doherty, I will say, she was, of course, she was on 90210. So if you grew up watching that, she would be legendary, dude. She was also in Mallrats. So that ups her stock a little bit. She was also in Heathers. So she had some roles. So
she was an actress that appeared in at least 3 films. That's
right,
true.
but I'm saying those were 3 iconic roles. That's all I'm saying. So is she a legend? Maybe a little bit of a legend. But Ed Wood actually, certainly, absolutely is. Ed Wood is legendarily bad at his job. But if he may be the first guy that came out with the so bad it's good category of film. That stuff like The Room has followed in the recent years. Ed had a ton of films. It's funny when you look at his portfolio, Boat. I don't know how many. You've seen at least one of his films. Have you ever seen any of his other ones?
No, but I have seen the movie Ed Wood starring Johnny Depp. That's
one of my all-time favorite films, by the way. Martin Landau won an Oscar for his role in that as Bela Lugosi.
Who is Martin Landau?
Martin Landau played Bela Lugosi in that.
Is he related to the guy from Logan?
I don't know who that is.
No, because that's his first name.
You talking about Landau Eugene Murphy?
Yeah.
No, they're not related.
Got that wrong.
Also, Landau Eugene Murphy is a black guy. So there's
I don't know who this other guy is.
He played Bela Lugosi. Do you think they're going to put a black guy in the role?
Listen, I saw Soul Man. I know how it works.
Nevertheless, Ed Wood was a great movie, and part of the reason why it was great is because it took a lighthearted look at the life and the works of Ed Wood, and sort of ended on a high note.
Yeah, it's so much better because I've seen a lot of these sort of biopics, like the one they made about Howard Hughes. Remember that, The Aviator?
Yeah, I love that. That was real good.
But I mean, it wasn't exactly real uplifting at the end. It was sort of depressing.
Yeah,
Ed Wood was like the ending was sort of like Thelma and Louise. It was just wacky. Of course, he didn't die at the end either, but it left me feeling happy.
The funny thing is, as I recall, it's not that funny. I think Ed Wood died, basically drank himself to death after he always dabbled in the land of X-rated filmage, and I think the last bunch of movies he made were just some nudie flicks, and then he pretty much passed off. But at the height of his power, he made some great bad movies. I'll name a couple that I really like. I put these on your future watch list, Boat.
Okay.
Glenn or Glenda, which is the cross-dressing film, which he starred in, and
is that sci-fi as well?
Well, sorta. You'd have to. That one's harder to explain, but that's a transvestite flick from the 50s. Bride of the Monster, great. That one also had Lugosi in it. But probably my favorite of all of his movies, even more than Plan 9, is The Sinister Urge. It's a great movie about this teenager who has this adventure. It's really good.
What's that other movie that's sort of like got the same kind of title?
Night of the Ghoul?
No. It's an Orson Welles movie.
I don't know.
It's like The Sinister Urge. It sounds kind of like that. But it's about a touch of evil.
Touch of evil? How does that?
I guess that's not related.
Listen, I don't have to say this too often, but you need to get back on the wagon. You're goofier now than you were before. Anyway, He used a cast of characters that would show up in a ton of his movies, and a lot of them are in Plan 9. You mentioned Tor Johnson, the Swedish wrestler, who is great. In the Ed Wood movie, he was played by George Animal Steel, and he did a great job. You picked the perfect guy to play Tor, big, bald, hairy freak, which I always thought that was funny. I like us in the movie his real super fat, heavy family that were always around. He also would have Lyle Talbot and a lot of his stuff. Also, if you watch the very beginning of Plan 9, Criswell is that guy that tells the future.
Yeah, the newscaster.
And the famous... What do you mean? He comes out of a coffin. I'm talking about that guy. At the beginning of Plan 9. So he's a guy that would show up here every once in a while. So a lot of Ed Wood stuff is just like that. He had no money, and he would shoot stuff and move on. A lot of the stuff that in Ed Wood actually happened. Did he steal scenes and equipment from the movie studio? Yes. Did he film without permission? Yes. Was there footage of Bela Lugosi in Plan 9 that was filmed before Bela died? But Bela died before they started Plan 9. So they just took the footage and put it in Plan 9. And stuff like that. He did all that stuff, but to get the movie done. So he was a colorful character. I strongly suggest you watch the movie Ed Wood. And if you haven't seen the movie for Plan 9 from Outer Space, it really is a must-watch. I've seen it multiple times, including with the Riff Tracks guys, which I'd say that's, if you don't think you could sit through it like normally, that's not the worst idea to watch it with. That's how you watched it in the book.
That's how I watched it. When I saw there was a Riff Tracks available, I thought that would be the way to go. Listen, before we move on to the game, I just want to get a quick top 5 for you. What are the best, worst, best movies in the grand tradition of Plan 9 or The Room for you?
Well, both those are in the top 5 easily. Birdemic would be in there. It's god awful. Troll 2, it's another one. These aren't like I'm not reinventing the wheel here on these picks, but these are legendary films for a reason. And then I'll round out the list with the what could be the granddaddy of bad films, Manos: The Hands of Fate. Which is
translated as the hands of fate.
Yes. Torgo. I mean, that movie, in some ways, the soundtrack of that movie reminded me of this game. In some ways, a long, repeating, monotonous thing. But yeah, those, you can't go wrong. And it's there's no coincidence that all those have Riff Tracks or Mystery Science Theater episodes dedicated to them, because they're all terrible, terrible films. In fact, I hate to say this, but I've seen Plan 9, Troll 2, The Room, and I think I've seen every one of those movies but one in the theater. So,
wow. Were they part of a Riff Tracks?
They were. At some one time or another. The only one I haven't seen in the theater was Manos, which I would like to see. I
think there's probably rights issues for screening Manos.
No, God, no. No, I think those movies I think they're all free. I think you can get every single one of those as a freebie. I don't think you have to pay. Maybe Birdemic isn't. It's pretty new. Or maybe, Birdemic and Troll 2. But those are both, they're all horrible. So if you're going to make a list, do you have a thought? I know you haven't seen as many.
No, I haven't really seen. I've seen, thanks to you. You're really my conduit for most of the things that I watch these days.
Yeah.
And so, I watched Plan 9. I've seen Manos thanks to you. That's a movie. That's a movie, all right.
Yeah,
I have not seen Troll 2, so that's probably next on the list.
Here, I'll do you one better. Not only have I seen Troll 2 in the theater, I saw Troll in the theater, and it's not famous, but it was the only thing playing one day. I remember going to see it. I was like, and it's got nothing to do with Troll 2 either. They're both bad, but Troll 2 is legendarily bad. Troll 1's just not good.
All right, Aaron, speaking of not good, let's talk about Plan 9 from Outer Space.
Yes, sir. It's Plan 9 from Outer Space. This is a game I've heard about for years and never played. Bo, did you ever try this one out?
Never.
And so I'll just let it go at that. Plan 9. This was released on a few different platforms. The usual suspects, DOS, Amiga, and the Atari ST, all in '92. And apparently you can play this on Antstream if you're so inclined. I'm sure it's just emulating one of the other ones. This one, hilariously, was developed by Gremlin Ireland, allegedly. I saw that credited a few places, and some places didn't have any developer credited.
Nobody wants the credit for this one.
Gremlin Ireland. By the way, it's funny. I was like, I'd never heard of Gremlin Ireland. I don't think.
No, me neither.
According to Hall of Light, they developed Little Devil at least in some part in Gremlin Ireland.
Okay, well, we like that one. That was good. CD32 game, I think.
This was published by, well, depending on where you live, it was published by Gremlin everywhere but the United States, where Konami somehow got roped into this one.
That's crazy.
They were slumming. Of course, if you think about Gremlin, they had the Lotus series, Hero Quest, Supercar series, the Zools, the Switchblades, and they've added Plan 9 to their portfolio for some reason. This one was... most of the people that worked on this is pretty much a one-off, directed by Ian Hadley, and it worked on by Philip Pluckett, coded by John McLaughlin and Thomas Rolfs. Thomas Rolfs did also work on Little Devil, so he's got a credit. And the graphics by Philip Pluckett and Nicola Sedgwick. It's an ECS OCS story. 4 discs for this one, Boat. Big 4. I was surprised. I'll be honest with you. I was real surprised. This one lets you pick your language. It's in an amusing way at the beginning. English, German, or French. And, of course, it's a one-player adventure game. Now, here's something I wanted to bring up early, because I went through the reviews of this, as I usually do in the magazines, and I saw this mentioned a couple times. So, if you lived in the UK or Europe, a PAL region, this came with the Plan 9 videotape. Okay, so you could watch the movie. Not the worst idea, but here's the problem. So you got a free video, okay? You see the air quotes I'm making?
Mm-hmm.
This normally, Gremlin games, and this is like Lotus 2, all their big titles cost £29.95, okay? This one costs £34.95. So
it's the old free gimmick.
Yeah, and so the magazines were like, listen, this doesn't feel free. And also, like, we don't really necessarily want to buy the film. It's like, oh, too late, you're getting it. So that caused some turmoil amongst the reviewers. When this thing, first of all, before we even get to the game proper, what do you think of the idea of making a game that invokes the name of Plan 9? Because by the time this came out in 92, Plan 9 was already well known as a cult film, a cult classic, for its horribleness. That's back when that stuff had started to take off. Everyone knew about it. What do you think about the concept of making a game based on this property?
I think it's great. I think it's great because you have an opportunity to make a humorous game where all the jokes are essentially written for you. Because you don't have to have seen Plan 9 from Outer Space to understand the humor in the tropes they kind of employ here. Yeah,
I mean, I'll say a lot of what they employ is kind of low hanging fruit. And they turn.
I guess I'm not saying it's not.
Yeah, I will. The one thing I thought about when I asked myself that question was, well, if the game is, anytime the game gets stupid or it starts to suck, you have to think to yourself, are they making this happen because it's based on this film, or did they just suck?
Right.
And so they've almost got a built-in out.
You have free reign to make a game as bad as you want when you're making it in homage to a bad movie.
And really, no one should really have that freedom, I mean, in all honesty. So the game starts out with a sort of a mini rendition of the opening credits to Plan 9, where the lightning strikes over a big, huge gravestone. It's got all the people in the crews written on the gravestones. That's what they do in the film. Before you're ultimately dumped in the office of a movie distributor who needs you to recover the missing reels from the film that he wants to distribute. And you're sort of like a private investigator. When this started, Bode, I mean, before we even get to the plot or anything, the representation, the gameplay video, the what your view is goofy in this. What were your thoughts right out of the gate on how this is presented?
Low end. Low end would be the words that I would use.
I could not have said it any better. It's so basically this is a Amiga game.
This is the kind of game that you'd see a lot in the early days of CD-ROM games.
Yes.
Where they'd have full motion video in the size of a postage stamp, grainy full motion video, and then you have, 3/4 of the screen is enveloped in other things. The problem with that is that we're not seeing full motion video here at all.
No, well, I mean, there are little tidbits of
there's animation. Don't get me wrong.
There is some full motion video in this.
That's true. You're right. They do show clips of the movie in this. Yeah.
I mean, we're being incredibly generous. Like a QuickTime event would scoff at the video in this. So what we're getting at here is this is the new king of what I call the Dreamcatcher rule, which is a game that uses as little of the on-screen real estate as possible. This game, what would you say the percentage of the game screen that's taken up by the actual game screen in this boat?
I'd say about 28%.
Yeah, it's less than a third. I'd say
less than a third.
That's a heck of an answer. You can tell you're a teacher. It's in the upper middle of the screen. You'll get the view area, and so from that point, you have to. The rest of the screen is built up by like a static image that never goes away, which shows like a graveyard scene with a couple of the characters from the
Van
movie.
Perella's in there. They got the grave diggers in there.
Yeah, and this never goes away except for there's only basically anytime they're going to show the full motion video sequences, they'll have some kind of new background, but otherwise that's the static background that you'll always see. And then on the lower right-hand corner of that is the menu of your commands. And there are the usual suspects: give, run, open, examine, and this is one of those. Click on the little command box and then click on the screen to do stuff, and vice versa. Let's just talk about the interface now fully. So we've talked about how small the game view is. What did you think about because this is a point-and-click adventure. What did you think about the interface that you're given to work with here in this point-and-click adventure?
I actually think it's really good. This is a game.
What?
This is a game that does not use icons for anything. It uses words like we do in America.
Okay.
We use words. Okay. You've also got your inventory on the screen at all times, so you can see what you have. Again, not with crappy icons that you have to hover over, but with words. So it makes solving the puzzles and interacting with the world pretty seamless. In addition to that, you've got a rolling dialogue, not unlike what you might get in Mystery House or some game like that, where because so little of the screen is taken up with the actual in-game graphic, you can get a lot of dialogue and a lot of your previous choices and things show up on the screen in sort of a scroll. So while it's never a good thing to only have 28% of your screen taken over by the actual graphics of the game, they don't waste the space all the time with just empty space. For example, there's no name of the programmer here. There's no name of the game here. There's no useless gauges here. They do utilize that empty space for things that are for use in the game.
I've never disagreed with you more than I do right now. I hate the interface. I hate the way they've got this set up. The amount of wasted space. It's like you said, a QuickTime event from a CD for the game screen, and the rest of the stuff is handled in most games by like a pull down menu or something so that you can have it on the screen when you need it. You don't need this stuff on the screen all the time.
Well, also, the Scum engine would disagree.
Also, added bonus, this is one of those games where you're pixel hunting around for stuff. You can't even just put your mouse up there and scroll around. You've got to go hit the exam, and then you've got to scroll around with it. They don't eliminate the usual things that you can eliminate without having to, like, you should be able to just move your mouse around the little screen and see everything that's in there, not have to hit examine and move around or open and hit around. I didn't like it. To me, it seemed aged in a lot of ways. And it's funny because I read the same thing in a lot of the magazine reviews too. The fact that the screen is so small, it makes pixel hunting even more irritating. I'd have a time just getting the ball rolling on this thing, and on top of everything else, normally when they have dialogue, so they just put it on the actual game screen, and the game screen's huge. The fact that they put it at the bottom of the screen, to me, it's like they'd put it there because that's where it would normally go if it was over top of the normal stuff. So I don't really think you're gaining anything by having the big blank thing with Vampire at the bottom. I will say that I was amused that all the commands were on a headstone. I bet that's kind of funny. But aside from that, I didn't like the interface a bit.
Well, okay, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
This is not cutting edge point and click adventure game interface for 1992.
No.
But this is certainly serviceable for anybody that's a fan of the genre that played these type of games back in the day. This is by far not the worst.
No.
All those French games, those are the worst.
No, you're right. I agree with that. I mean, take out the fact that the game screen's tiny. Take out the fact that they wasted all that space. Take all that out. And again, I don't like the fact you have to examine stuff to click on it, and that's irritating. But I will say, for a dumb guy like myself, the interface was easy to understand. It did what you thought it was supposed to do. I didn't have trouble manipulating stuff or combining stuff, stuff like that. So, I mean, the interface, it's not cutting edge, but it's certainly, like you said, it's totally serviceable. But I just didn't like the way it's presented, me personally. Now, the adventure itself, aside from the presentation we've spoken of.
Well, let's talk about what you have to actually do in this game.
Right. Well, go ahead. That's where I was going.
You are working for a movie producer or a businessman, a rights holder,
distributor.
That's the word I'm looking for. The film reels from Plan 9 from Outer Space have been lost and scattered throughout the world. So your job is to locate the reels, hunt them down, and then bring them back to the distributor. That's it. That's the game.
That's the game. And so he pays you $100 up front, and you'll get 100 more, which is a good deal. And you get 100 more bucks when you complete the job to get all these reels. Now, if you are a fan of Ed Wood's films, you will see occasional homage or whatnot to some of his old movies, like Glen or Glenda. If you look behind the produced at the very beginning, the poster that's back there, that was like when Glen and Glenda was made. It wasn't called Glen and Glenda. It had another name that the distributor wanted. They had the name before they had the film. I mean, they knew what they wanted. What Ed didn't do, they changed the name. But the original movie poster sort of behind him. You'll notice that everywhere you go, everyone looks like Vampira and Tor. Like almost every character in the game is Vampire and Tor. I'm sure you noticed this. You can't miss it with Tor's face.
It's the central conceit of the game. This is. I mean, if you didn't notice it, then something is seriously wrong with you.
I mean, I don't care if they're a white guy, Mexican guy, anybody. They're all Tor Johnson and Vampire. And the funny thing is, I mean, they look sort of like, I guess, in a cartoony way, which is fine. Part of me was thought to myself, I wonder if they just did that to like save time when making art, because you could just say,
of course they didn't do that. They did it because it's funny. It's hilarious.
Did you laugh at
hilarious. That? I laughed at it every single time. Did you watch this whole game? Did you watch it beginning to end?
No. God, no.
Okay.
I played till I couldn't play anymore, then I watched some more. But I didn't watch
really hilarious bits in here with Tor Johnson. Like when you go to Mexico and you get arrested, and you're in there with the guard, and the guard's got Tor is wearing a mustache and it keeps falling off and he keeps having to fix it. I don't know. Humor is a very subjective thing. So what's funny to one person is not going to be funny to somebody else. To me, this is like the repeating gag never got old. I laughed because first of all, Tor is hilarious. Whenever you see him, you can't help but smile. Okay. And number two, they put him in every sort of conceivable costume. Okay.
Yeah.
It's not just like Tor dressed up in various kinds of suits or whatever. I thought it was hilarious. And so if you don't think that's funny, you're probably not going to think a lot of the other things in this game are funny. For example, like whenever you land in a new location, it's the same airport with a different, sign above it.
Yeah. They also use the set The airplane set from Plan 9 is just when you see any scenes with the pilots and stuff, they're on that cheesy, crappy set. So it's just, you could tell they lifted it straight from the movie. There were plenty of little pointers to his original works.
Yeah, and the game breaks the fourth wall a lot when you read the dialogue. If you actually, here's the thing. This is the thing about every single point-and-click adventure game. Okay, you either have the time and the inclination to work through all the puzzles, or you don't. Okay, I'm looking at this from the perspective of, okay, I have all the time in the world in my imaginary universe. I'm working through the puzzles, but really I'm watching somebody play this game and I'm watching the dialogue go by. Okay, I watched this on 2x and I watched it on mute because the music is the worst. It is the dirt worst.
It starts out okay. It just never stops. It's always the same little loop over and over.
Yeah, and it's not a pleasant loop. It's meant to call upon the kind of music that you might hear in 50s sci-fi films.
Cheesy, creepy.
Yeah, exactly. But the game is not exactly a fast mover. And you have to go to a lot of places in this game. You are traveling constantly around the world, going different places, jumping on the airplane, going to there, and you've got all the classic tropes. You've got the item manipulation. You've got an ID card that you have to cut and slide your picture in there to become a pilot. The puzzles in this game are not especially like the worst as far as like a moon logic, but they definitely don't spell a lot of things out for you. And because you have limited inventory, that's really the roughest thing, is because you're constantly having to drop items to pick other items up. For example, like the scuba tank, it's real heavy, so you have to drop almost all of your items, and you don't know what you're going to need in the future or not. Whenever you drop an item, it tells you a little like imp or something scurries up and carries it away, so it's gone forever. That's no good. That's sort of like the user interface. That's something by 1992 the industry was moving away from. But that's what we have here. But for me, in point and click adventure games, what spurs you to go on is the story. And I feel like if you are somebody that is a fan of this genre and is a fan of Plan 9 or Ed Wood or just cheesiness in general, you're going to get a lot of laughs out of the entire story. This game, it covers it all. Every trope you can possibly imagine, including the big ending, which involves aliens landing and things like that. So you go to the Great Wall. You talk to mystical Buddhists. It's everything. This game gives you everything. So I am a big fan of this. I am going to put it over because it's unique among point and click adventure games because of the theming. I don't think that the user interface is bad. The 28% is bad, but if you can overlook that, then you're going to have a good time with this.
So I didn't like this. I didn't like. In fact, I'm not gonna say I hated it because there were parts that I chuckled at. I thought this was hard right out of the gate. But with that said, I stink at these games, and it's well known, well documented. These aren't necessarily my cup of tea. You don't know how long it took me just to get off the first couple stages to find out how to get places. I couldn't even get to the freaking cemetery. That was one of the first places you go. But
how can you not laugh at Tor Johnson on that airplane right now?
Well, I mean,
see, his mustache is falling off.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
I thought to myself as I played. First of all, I would can this game. I would give it a thumbs down just on the audacity that they put the game on a tiny screen. Just that one thing is enough for me to give this a thumbs down. But I thought to myself, because as I went through the game, I thought to myself, well, this isn't what I was looking for at all for a Plan 9 game. And then I sat there and I stopped, and I thought to myself, if you were making a game that was going to be based on the Plan 9 for United States property, what would you do? And my answer was, I don't have an answer because it's hard. It's hard to do. So, making a game that's sort of like a cheesy movie that Ed Wood might make, where you're trying to find another one of Ed Wood's cheesy movies, it's not the worst concept. It's sort of, there are funny bits. There's some dialogue that's amusing, for sure, from what I saw. And I'm like you, I played a couple hours of this and then watched another half hour or so of it. and then I'll flip to the end and see what this hit went down. By the way, you find out about the aliens pretty early on, and so you've got that in the back of your head the entire game. It's like, well, what's going on with that? But this game sort of reminded me of stuff we used to play on the Coco. Just like these, like the puzzles and stuff you solve are just so wacky, and I'm not gonna say they're disjointed, but I mean it's
well,
real
I mean
odd.
that's the genre. If you play these games, this is what you face every single game.
The dialogue tree is sometimes those are kind of funny. Yeah, of course. I'm sure you noticed at the very beginning, you're sitting there beside Ed Wood at the bar. That was those little. I like to. And sometimes you'll see a poster or something in the background that allude to something. I thought that was kind of neat. I mean, you're right. I can't kill this on the basis of the actual adventure. Because I'm not good at these games. I didn't get very far into it, despite my struggles. And when I did sit down and watch it, there were some amusing bits in it. So if you're into point and click games and you want to play something I doubt there's another game like this. I will say that it's real odd. And funny. If there's funny parts, if you're into that sort of thing, that's fine. But you've got to get past the interface and the 28% picture that's on here. To me, I won't go back to it. And it's funny because at the beginning of the week, I was trying to find a copy of this to buy just because I like the movie so much. By the end of the week, I wasn't spending that much money on it. I can tell you that right now. I mean, where would you put this? I mean, in the echelon of, we've played quite a few of these point and click games. I mean, I know this is no Monkey Island or any of that, but where do you put this? What's comparable to it in your mind?
In my mind, I always think about the sort of Sierra style games like King's Quest, Police Quest, Space Quest.
Yes.
And then on the other side, you've got the LucasArts games. You've got Sam and Max, you've got Monkey Island, and Fly the Amazon Queen. Even though that wasn't LucasArts, it's still in that style. Okay.
Yeah.
I would much rather play this kind of a game where you are moving from location to location. You don't have to worry about your position of the dude on the screen. Like in Sierra games, I can always just like randomly fall in the water and die.
Yeah, that is a
Like
pain.
that.
Yeah.
To me, I would much rather play a game like this than I would any of those Sierra games, the Space Quest games, the Police Quest games, even Leisure Suit Larry. This kills Leisure Suit Larry 2 in terms of everything, in terms of humor, in terms of the interface, in terms of everything.
I enjoyed Leisure Suit Larry 2 more than this.
I don't understand how you could.
I was way better at it too. I got much further in Leisure Suit Larry 2. I don't know. It's kind of funny. I thought it was funny too. I don't get me wrong. I'm right there with you. But this had like Sierra style humor with the Lucas style interface, sort of. I mean, because the humor, when you said the Police Quest and Space Quest, there's some of that kind of wacky humor in here. The humor in this reminds me more of that than it does, say, like Monkey Island.
I disagree.
Really?
Yeah. As somebody that's played a bunch of Monkey Island, these jokes are sort of falling. There's not any humor in Sierra games.
Oh yeah, there is.
Sierra games is you're screwed, you died again. I
played Police Quest 1 on stream a couple months ago, and there's a lot. What's that mean?
Were you rolling? You in laughter?
Well, I wasn't rolling, but it was sort of amusing. There was some pretty funny stuff in it, and Leisure Larry had some funny stuff in it too. I would put this in the same wheelhouse as Larry in terms of the humor. It's just different. So it's a different kind of humor, but the amount of amusement I got out of it, I'd say it's about the same. I can get around better.
I am not going to tell anybody to go and play this game because at this point in life, life's too short to play almost any point and click adventure game. But
that's a depressing sentiment.
if you're a fan of Plan 9, and I'm not saying that I'm like a lifelong fan either. I watched Plan 9 before I played this game, and you will get more out of it if you've seen the movies Ed Wood and you've seen Plan 9, and I'm sure if you've seen the other ones, you'll get more out of it. But you can watch this on 2X, and you can get through it in about 40 minutes. And I enjoyed the 40 minutes I spent watching this game after I fooled around playing the game for probably 20 or 30 minutes.
Oh man, maybe that's the difference because I gutted through this thing for hours. I played a couple hours. I'm not
going to gut myself through anything anymore.
Well,
life's too short.
Well, I wanted to make sure I had a good grip of what I was doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's because it took me a while just to understand how the interface works. It's just different than it should. I thought it was.
I don't understand what you find so confusing.
I'll give you an example. Okay, on one of the opening screens, storeroom. Okay, you go in the storeroom.
Yeah.
So I could see a bat on the floor. I could see a chest, some other stuff. Okay, so I went to move the pointer and clicked on them. Nothing lit up. Nothing came on. There was nothing being identified. I was like, what the heck's going on? Then I was like, okay, I got to go down and click on examine. Then I had to move my hand back up. Then all of a sudden stuff lights up.
Right.
See, that's an extra step that you don't need. I mean, that's the kind of thing I'm talking about.
Yeah, but I mean, this is even though this is 1992, there were still plenty of games that made you choose a command and then interact with the thing. This is not that far removed from that.
Something else, speaking of that scene, that I found odd. It's a lot like the little troll guy. Like, if you fiddle around for an X amount of time, a guy will come in and take all the stuff that you picked up. So you sort of have to pop in there real quick, grab crap, and get out.
Yeah,
I thought that's unusual.
Yeah, and that is a problem. Is that, well, I don't know if is one of the problems with this game, and this is a problem I have with a lot of adventure games, including the one that Tony Warner worked on, the Lure of the Temptress. Anytime that you combine sort of cerebral point and click adventuring with a timed element, like you only have X amount of time before you have to retry something because you've done it wrong, I don't like that. I hate that. Same thing with Larry. With Larry, like, if you waste too much time getting the cruise ship, you're going to miss the boat and you lose the game.
Yeah, I didn't like that either, because some of this stuff, you can't just be expected to sit in front of your machine and play this thing continuously. And I don't like to have that kind of pressure on me, especially with a game like this. It's not like we're playing like Killing Game Show or something. I mean, the time limits in that are different. I don't want to have them in a game like this. And that was a major bummer in Larry, that stuff too. I agree with you on that. To me, this is going to be one of those games that's probably kind of polarizing. I think some people really like it. Some people aren't.
As I talk and as I listen to the words that are coming out of my mouth, I think that, me telling people that this is worth it just to watch is not really high praise for a video game. Because again, life may be too short to watch somebody playing this game too. As an experience, and as we know from the current age that we live in, where people make millions and millions of dollars playing video games while people watch them, I don't think it's out of line to say that you should watch a game rather than play it, especially a point and click adventure game where a lot of things are just designed to pad out the length of the game. It's a tough one to really recommend. But I will say that they did probably the best job that they could with the source material in terms of crafting a compelling story and a setting.
They gave it a shot, because you can't really remake Plan 9 into a game, I don't think. Maybe you could, but not this kind of game. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you could. I don't know. I would agree. I like the core concept is sound. Let's put it that way. But I mean, in all honesty, and I'm like you, I don't want people to necessarily go off my recommendations or non-recommendations, because, I mean, I can tell you right now, if you don't like the little screen, don't play this. That right there,
you're going to be out right away.
In terms of the actual content of the game, I struggled. I struggled with this game, as I often do, because these aren't necessarily my bag. And I got frustrated. I'm so sick of being in that stupid cab. And then the music droned on, and eventually
the music doesn't help. It does not help.
I hit the wall. I'm like, because there wasn't enough compelling things happening to make me stay, and also I was stuck. So I was like, okay, 2 hours of this. I usually try to give a game at least at the bare minimum 2 hours of me and struggling. And this is the kind of game where it takes you about 5 minutes to figure out the interface. This ain't Sim Life. And then the rest are like, well, okay, I'll go find someone better than me so I can at least see how they did. So I'm much like yourself. I sat down and tried to watch where the direction this game was going, because there's places I never would have gotten. So if you're a connoisseur of this sort of game and you like a challenge and you don't like that much stuff on your screen, this is the game for you, I think.
Well said.
Thank you. Did we have any looks at this? Anybody have a look at this thing in our Discord?
Yeah, we got a couple of reviews this week. First one comes from Lobsterminator. He says, I never played this back then, but I remember the review from a magazine. I'd also not heard of the movie then, and it seemed very intriguing. My exposure to B-movie classics would come some years later. I think the game has a good attempt at an unexpected angle. You're not playing through the movie, but you play a game set around the movie. The execution could be a lot better, though. The interface where you have a tiny graphics window and a huge UI frame was severely outdated in 1992. It even uses the default Amiga font and the speech bubbles, which I always associate with the earliest Amiga games. The music is repetitive and bland. One thing the movie Plan 9 did have was actually decent music. There are some fun nods to Ed Wood and things to spot, but the repeating Tor Johnson and Vampira as many characters gets old fast. After a while, it feels less like a joke and more just reluctance to draw characters. although I admit Tor even appearing as a fish got a slight chuckle from me. Humor is a difficult game genre, and there are not many games that pull it off. And the B-movie aspect was underutilized, especially when It Came from the Desert had done in a legendary fashion many years before. Yet another Amiga game where I feel there's an interesting game underneath, but execution was not good enough. Plan 9 is not the worst movie ever. It's one of the most entertainingly bad movies ever. The game, unfortunately, falls into the category of forgettably mediocre. 6 out of 10 from Lobsterminator. Pajako6502 writes, charming, genuinely funny, the game eases you into a wide world of locations to explore. I've yet to complete it, and want to, which says a lot. Maybe the developers were new to creating point-and-click adventures, as Plan 9 could feel quite awkward. A lot of pixel hotspot hunting and needing to reselect menu items each time, which is a pain when examining a scene. I did accidentally leave scenes a few times when trying to interact with items at the edges of the screen. Maybe It's just me. There are lots of items and chairs, but limited inventory spaces. And as with many adventure games, there is trial and error with items, so there's a lot of backtracking to grab them. The movie producer stops you picking up multiple items early in the game in one of the many funny moments, maybe a clue not to fill up your inventory too soon. The music is a bit droning, and there are some spot sound effects. The graphics, while rich and diverse, do feel a little cheap looking to me, possibly not enough disk space, or maybe, and I'm on the fence regarding the cheap feel of the game. Is it deliberate or not? But ultimately, it works. Not the best point-and-click adventure, but some really funny moments and bonkers story that's well worth checking out. Just be prepared to give the interface some slack, and remember, you must seek out the aliens. 7 out of 10 from Pajako.
That sounds, I mean, they brought up some very similar points to what we did. In terms of the scores of the day, well, Lemon gave this one a 6.54, and Lore gave this a 66. They're pretty much on pace with one another. The magazine scores are actually pretty interesting. Amiga Action gave this a 92. I read their review, and they loved it. They loved it. They thought it got over with them. Amiga Computing gave it a 75. Amiga Format gave it a 45. They were the ones that complained about the price amongst the ones that did, and they also hated the interface and the screen size. Amiga Joker, 83%. They were down with it big time. That's a big score from the Joker.
Yeah.
Amiga Mania, brother, gave it a 79. Amiga Power gave this a 36. I read their review. They weren't kind. And they also mentioned that, like, this was 1992, and this is the Amiga. Like, this, what you're showing us here is ancient. That was their thing. Right. And they gave this a 79. The average magazine score from all that mess, 71%. I would say that's, I mean, yeah. I mean, I'd say 60s and 70s for me. I just think that the graphics are a foul I can't get past on a game like this. eBay, I thought this would go for some bucks. It does. There's an Amiga title out there. They're asking $166 for a box copy. I saw this sold in the DOS version for $68. And DOS stuff doesn't sell for as much as Amiga stuff does, so that's pretty high. I saw one had actually sold for $20 at some point, so there may be a deal to be had on picking this one up. But I mean, it's probably going to cost you a few dollar bills to get hold of it. So I wouldn't run out necessarily and spend the big money on a $160 version of this game. That's
no, give that a miss.
Yeah, I agree. But overall, I mean, I think Bo liked it more than me, but I think if you're a point-and-click fan, I think there's something here to enjoy.
If you ask any Amiga repair technician what the most problematic component of a motherboard is, they'll undoubtedly mention capacitors. The electrolytic capacitors that shipped with the Amiga are 30 years old or older at this point, and each one is a ticking time bomb waiting to explode battery acid all over your motherboard, sometimes damaging it irrevocably. Don't wait. Replace your capacitors now. Full capacitor kits for every Amiga model are available now at RetroRewind.ca. Don't want to attempt the repair yourself? Use their white glove recap service and leave the intricate removal and soldering process to the professionals using industry standard equipment. Use the promo code Amigos10 at checkout and save 10% off your cap kit or service. Remember, make RetroRewind.ca your first stop for all your Commodore computer needs.
Amiga News.
Gamble Train.
All right, Aaron, some intriguing news stories this week. The first one is this is the first entry that I've seen come around for Amiga Cammy's Game Jam. So this is her, I think she's pretty famous for running the most successful game jams in Amiga history. She really knocked it out of the park last year with her jam was responsible for many wonderful games, which you were among the first to ever stream online. So make sure you
I hadn't
go
thought
back
about that.
check out.
I guess I would.
Yeah, check out Amigo Aaron's Friday Night Disaster stream of Amiga Cammy's Game Jam from last year. This year's theme is sequels that never were. Sequels that never were. So,
Great theme.
Yeah, well, thank you. I came up with it.
Yeah, that's a good one, Boat.
This is Fast Food Dizzy 2. Now, this is a game I believe that you and the Brent covered on either our Sinclair. Well, it had to have been our Sinclair, right? You guys covered this. Do you remember Fast Food Dizzy?
I can't remember. I was thinking me and you covered it on this show, but I'm not. Could be wrong.
Oh, geez, maybe you're right.
But this is one of the Disney games. We've been at odds with the egg over the years. But I would say without doubt, this is the one that no one talks about. This is my favorite Disney game by far, the original. And so when I saw this pop up in the news, I was like, oh yeah, someone is being super cool. Acid Bottle, I believe, is the guy or crew that's putting this out. This looks great, Bode. This looks outstanding. I thought the original was a lot of fun, and this one looks like the graphics have been improved. I'm actually excited about that, Bode. That's a good one.
Just a real-time fact check. You and I both covered this game on our Sinclair episode 88.
There we go. I knew it was. I thought it was me and you. I knew that.
You were right. You were right about that. I enjoy Dizzy's fast food exploits much more than I do his adventuring and picking up of dropping of items exploits.
And he's nimble, but not that nimble. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So give me Fast Food Dizzy any day of the week. I can't wait to watch this thing continue to happen. And of course, all the best to Cammy and the Game Jam. I'm sure we'll be covering some more of those titles as they appear.
You picked. Hold on a second before you go on. You picked the theme, and let me tell you something. I love it, and I'm going to sit around. I wish I could had any programming skills at all, because there are plenty of Amiga games that we thought were this close to being really good, and it wouldn't take much of a bump to put these things into the fun zone. That's a great idea, and since someone's doing a game I already like, this one should be double awesome. So I think you did a great job, Bode.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I really did nothing. Beat Bash Boulevard is the name of the one and only Ravi Abbott's newest DJ set, featuring plenty of music from the Amiga. I believe that Ravi specializes in a genre of music known as jungle. And so if you are interested at all in getting out there and dancing the night away with Ravi Abbott spinning the Amiga and the turntables and all of that stuff, his whole shebang, make sure that you check out Beach Bash Boulevard. I believe that tickets are already sold out. So I don't know what the current status. There might be a wait list that you can jump onto. This is something that I know lots of people in the Amiga community really are really excited about, and so I just wanted to give it a shout out.
I've caught more than a few of. I used to catch him all the time at work when he would do those live DJ streams. I wish I had that kind of jack, brother.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
You got to have all the jack plus all the technical knowledge and wizardry. I don't have any of that stuff, but thank God somebody does.
Right.
And listen, Ravi, of course, he also was the man who behind the event you went to over in London. I mean, and he's also part of the Retro Hour. He's got his hands in all sorts of pies there, Bo. Some good stuff. So good luck, Ravi. If it's sold out, you don't need luck, brother.
Right. And finally, Aaron, this is a story that I know you're very eager to talk about.
Well,
basically, I think Nostalgia Nerd summed it up succinctly when he said, "This changes everything."
Yeah, he was not subtle. That's for sure with his putting over of this product. So it's here. It's finally here, everybody. The Stephen Jones monitor is going out and is being demoed here by the Nostalgia Nerd. Stephen was on the Nerd's show, I guess last year, and like after his appearance, he sold like 18 kabillion of these things. So him and Nostalgia Nerd are like in cahoots over this thing. And
well, let's be clear, because he makes it very clear that they are not in cahoots. He's not sponsored by Stephen. He gets no money for any of these units sold or anything. So before you write your angry YouTube comments, that is not the case.
Well, does cahoots? I don't necessarily mean there's a money being involved.
It definitely is. I just want to make it clear. We're not accusing of Nostalgia Nerd for being a mindless shill.
Well, no, listen now. That's neither here nor there. So Stephen has this monitor here. He goes over the various blades that go in the back of this thing.
They're called pods, Aaron.
I'm sorry, pods. Sure, pods. He goes over the various items that are in it. So I will say, if you as you look at the monitor here in front of you, and you see right here in the back, if you're watching on or listening on the radio, we're looking at the back of the monitor where they've got all these various pods and they're all occupied with all sorts of various things. You could get the Mister to put back there. You can get a Raspberry Pi to put back there. There's some sort of Amiga gimmick, like the old FPGA special or something you can stick back in one of those custom-made things. So I'm thinking to myself, this looks like there's a lot. There's also throughput on this thing, because it'll convert video and output it, which was an interesting gimmick. Remember that video converter that we bought that one time, and you accidentally blew it up? It was like the arcade machine one.
Oh yeah, there's the GBS 8200.
They took that thing and they retooled it, and that's what they're using to screw with the video on this. They've because that thing had problems. And not ours. I mean, yeah, ours had problems, but I mean the actual one, it had issues. They went through and fixed the grounding and stuff, so they've got a pod that's got that thing in it. So now I watched them play games on this thing. The RF looks just like not the best. Of course, their RF is one of those things where it's tough, but it does take RF. It's an LCD monitor that takes RF, which is nice. It's got PAL, or it's got the every sort of input you could think of it has on it. I know they had trouble getting his SNES to accept it properly, but pretty much everything else they plugged into it worked. It's got VGA, whole 9 yards. So if you're looking for a monitor to it's a 5x4 monitor. If you're looking for a 5x4 monitor to sort of fit all your needs, this might be for you. The problem I've got with this thing, I don't have a problem with it. It's just like, this is an Amiga monitor, okay? By that, I don't mean it's for the Amiga. I mean, it's priced in line with everything on the Amiga, just as a base model. I was talking to Boat last night, because I thought, okay, I want to look and see what this thing is going to cost. What does something like this run you? And the prices on this thing were like, you're $700 right out the gate, and then those little pods, the one that does all the conversion and stuff. That thing is $150 on its own.
So what you're saying is you're basically for $700 you're getting the shell. You're getting the
no,
panel.
you get the monitor. You get the monitor.
But I mean, as far as like, do you not get any connections on the back for $700?
You do get HDMI. You get connections, but you don't get like the conversion stuff or the scalers, any of that stuff.
Okay.
And so I get the panel he used. I think it's an OLED panel, so it should.
I don't think that's accurate. I don't
really
think that's accurate.
We can look
I was
on this
reading
page.
some comments.
Oh, really? What did you? I mean, you may know more than me about what
there was I read because whenever the thing that I was curious about was what the online reaction would be.
Yeah.
And so there you basically have a bunch of people saying like, they were going to they're on board. They're basically putting the money that they were going to put towards buying a CRT, one of these marquee models of CRT, which aren't getting any cheaper, and they're definitely getting older. And they're putting it towards this. And then I was reading some other people saying that they're going to wait for the OLED version, that they weren't really satisfied with the quality of the panel itself. I know that Steven went through a lot to kind of find and choose the panel that he thought would be best, because that was one of the things that kind of delayed this process. This is something that I feel like you're right. It appeals to the vintage computer hobbyist, somebody that wants a marquee bespoke product that fits right in with all of their other marquee bespoke products, like the Mr. Multi-System, like the Checkmate case. If you're already on board with a lot of these things that are and there's some nationalism in this too. This is stuff that's made in the UK by UK people. It's one of ours, as I hear people say over and over again. That has something to do with it too. And this is something that is I mean, $700, is it expensive? Yes. But in comparison to buying an A4000T, no. So this is, I feel like the price is not out of this world for the amount of things that they're making, in terms of the cost of scalability and things like this. I don't think Steven is going to retire off the back of the sales of this. This is kind of in line with what I thought it would be. I am just somebody though that prefers to play my retro gaming on a modern HDMI TV through the Mister. So this is just not for me. But in terms of items for the hobby, I think it's cool. I like the idea of being able to plug in multiple classic computers through all these various inputs, switching between them with the radial knob on the front. At first, I thought the radial knob was just going to be like a built-in GoTech, and I was like, that's lame.
Yeah.
But after reading about what this thing actually does, it allows you to cycle through all of those million inputs on the back, which is a lot more, it's a lot more convenient than using the monitor on-screen display. I hate using those all the time. So this is just something that it is a hobbyist niche product that has a very specific goal in mind. And hopefully when people get their hands on these things, they won't be disappointed, because people have been waiting a very, very long time for this thing to come out.
Just to dovetail what Boat said, and by the way, thank you. I asked some people to help me understand what the VAT tax was and stuff, and they did in the Discord, so I appreciate that. So I'm looking at the basic monitor on their webpage. It's just sold out. It's a 19-inch monitor. Now, here's something I don't understand, Boat. Maybe you can fill me in here. You've got the 17-inch white Checkmate display starter pack, and you got the 19-inch one, right? They're both priced the same on the webpage. I don't know is that what's going on there? Am I missing something?
No idea.
Here?
No idea.
So that didn't make any sense. I don't understand what this means. That I don't necessarily the prices.
Well, it's 449 pounds before VAT.
Okay, and then when I look at when you click on the box, it gives you what you get. You get a slew of stuff. You get HDMI output. You get a bunch of different things. This is a starter pack. It says here. So I don't know what this means. OLED front panel.
Yeah,
so
that's the GoTech display.
That's I understand there. Okay, so that's what that means. I see. This thing is, I've never fully understood the pricing or anything about this monitor. It's not spelled out anywhere. That to the point effect where a dummy could figure it out. So I'm hoping, well, I mean, let me rephrase that. If someone in our listening or viewing audience has purchased one of these, I don't know if anybody in the Discord got one, Bode. I don't know. But if anyone has, I would love to hear from you when the deal goes down, and you can let me know how it is. Because I was telling Bode, I picked up a monitor over here. It's a 4x3 monitor with HDMI and a bunch of different connectors in it. I think I paid like $1.50 for this thing. No, it may not be as double awesome as that, but I mean, it was obviously significantly cheaper. And I just wonder how the screens compared between El Cheapo that I got off Amazon and like expensive O Grande.
Yeah, and I think that's something that is going to be the sort of make or break moment, because you can't really look at how you can't gauge monitor quality through a YouTube video or through a photograph. And so when people start getting these in their hands, that's going to be the thing, because the panel is what you look at. The quality of the panel, I think, is so much more important than anything else. So it'll be interesting to see. I hope that everybody's pleased.
You know, I want to Vector Funk in the chat. Thank you, Vector Funk, for getting a dialogue grab here, talking about the OLED. But yeah, you were dead on, Boater. That's not an option right now on that. So that was a good call. So yeah, let us know if there's anything in here you think is awesome, or if it fails to meet your expectations. I'd love to know, Bode.
Yeah, and that's going to do it for this week's Amiga News, Aaron. What do we got coming up next week on Amigos?
Let's find out. Oh boy, it's Elf Mania, brother.
That's right. You know, I read a quote. There was a quote on the back of the box from The One, famed Amiga magazine, The One. They said it was pants-weddingly amazing.
That is.
So get ready to have some dirty drawers, Aaron.
You know, is that something you want? I mean, do you want a game that is pants-weddingly? Because I mean, there's no way that's good for anybody. You know, can you imagine? That's so 80s right there, or 90s in this case. Hey, one quick item, Boat, before we leave town here. It's October, Boat, and once again, you know, that means we have a special show that comes to the channel every October. It's Conversations from the Dark Side with myself and Rob Flock O'Hara, and occasionally you when you pop in.
Yeah.
And we'll be running this starting tomorrow, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to run every Friday in October. Hopefully you'll get to join us on a couple of these, Boat, if you're in town.
Absolutely. I can't wait. I won't be here this Friday, but going forward, I should be around on Friday evenings.
Beautiful. This is our live Twitch stream that goes on every Friday in October, where we talk about paranormal stuff or horror stuff or fun Halloween topics. Tomorrow night, as we record this, we're going to be talking about vampire lore is the topic of this show. It'll run an hour and a half, 2 hours. Should be a lot of fun. So if you're so inclined, pop over and check us out. That's Conversations from the Dark Side on the same channel you're watching now.
I really hope there's going to be some Alpo talk.
He was a werewolf. Sorry.
Oh, what about K-Bar?
Nope. Also a werewolf.
Unfortunate.
That's the same guy. Sorry. Get us out of here, Boat, for God's sake.
All right, guys. Thanks as always for listening and or watching. If you are watching on YouTube and you want to listen, you got the podcast link in the description. If you're watching on the podcast, if you're listening to the podcast and you want to watch on YouTube, youtube.com/Amigos Retro Gaming. If you like the show and you want to support it, we would certainly appreciate it. Patreon.com/Amigos Podcast. Yes, sir.
I forgot one thing. Thanks, everyone who showed up for last week's International Computer Club. I should say thank you to those guys. We had a good crowd, big numbers. Everybody enjoyed it. It's up on YouTube right now if you are so inclined. Check out International Computer Club.
Yes. And guys, thanks as always. We will see you next time. And until then, adios.
Amigos is made possible by contributions from listeners like you. Patreon supporters help choose the games we play, receive exclusive magnets, and get access to the Amigos Retro Gaming Discord server. Visit patreon.com/Amigos Podcast if you'd like to support the show and join our community.